What if I told you that this footballer physically couldn't make a wrong pass? From the craziest backheel passes to his incredible resistance under pressure, Sergio Busquets is surely not only one of the greatest passers in history, but also one of the greatest players ever. But how was this skinny guy so good at resisting under pressure? And more importantly, why couldn't he make a wrong pass? To find out, we have to go back to 2005. At 16 years old, Sergio Busquets was just released by Lleida after being described as awkward and too slow to make it at such a high level. Busquets never moved quite like a natural athlete, and for his dad, who was a professional goalkeeper at the elite levels, Sergio Busquets was a problem. Still, Sergio didn't give up and decided to play for amateurs Jabak Terrassa, the hometown club of Xavi Hernandez, and it was there where Busquets found his real talent. He dominated the midfield, and it wasn't long until his name became popular in La Masia. This was also thanks to Xavi, who went to see the local youth teams in his hometown, and when Xavi saw how good Busquets was, he went straight to Barcelona, telling them to at least give Sergio a trial. And before you know it, Busquets was invited to train for Barcelona's Juvenil B team in the summer of 2005. The coaches immediately fell in love with Busquets and found a position that best suited him, a pivot. A player that sits between the midfield and the defense. And he had to learn, he had to get suited to his new position. And if for the first 12 months he was a student, in his second season at Barcelona he became the teacher. He scored 7 goals in 26 games while providing 12 assists. And although his Barcelona career just started, his success was imminent, especially after Guardiola became the Barcelona B coach. From the first time he saw Busquets play, Pep fell in love with him, and after the 2007-2008 season, when Barcelona B won promotion to Segunda División, Juan Laporta decided to promote Guardiola to the first team manager's position. But because Pep loved Busquets so much, he brought him to the first team as well. However, this was only the beginning, as what happened next shocked the entire football world, because this skinny, lanky guy was going to do the unthinkable, something many of the greatest players have never done before. When Guardiola took the job as the first team manager, the club was in complete shambles. In the previous season, they finished third in La Liga, 18 points behind the champions Real Madrid. They haven't progressed further than the semi-finals of any competition. They ended the season trophyless, and on top of that, the squad Pep had was a complete chaos. However, he quickly changed things around, and as a result, he sold Deco and Ronaldinho, 2 iconic players for the club, but they had to go because of their partying mentality and ego. And what Pep did was handing the leadership to young players that came through La Masia and who were more humble and hungrier to win titles. One of those young men was Sergio Busquets, a boy who always dreamed of playing for Barcelona and who idolized their legends. Now, all of a sudden, he was in the spotlight. However, Yaya Touré and Seydou Keita were far more athletic than Busquets and far better defensive midfielders in the eyes of fans than some tall, skinny, inexperienced guy. But what nobody knew at the time was how intelligent this guy really was. Whenever he played, everyone was in shock of how good he was under pressure. It seemed like he would fall over if the wind blew harder. But still, nobody could get the ball off him. This is how he won his starter place in the squad over those two beasts. Busquets was simply better, and he didn't need muscles or athleticism, he just saw football differently. And before you know it, Sergio Busquets was a starter in the 2009 Champions League final, in his first season at the club. And you already know what happened in that final. Eto'o and Messi scored, while Busquets covered the defense and midfield. As a result, at 21 years of age, Busquets became a treble winner in his first season with Barcelona's big team. Before, fans criticized Guardiola for starting Busquets over Yaya Touré and Keita, but now they understand why. Busquets started 51 games in La Liga that season, playing 2,941 minutes of football in just his first season with Barca's first team. However, there was still space for things to go even crazier for Sergio. Upon seeing his exceptional exceptional performances, Vicente del Bosque, Spain's national team coach, called Busquets up to the squad in February 2009. He then made his debut in a World Cup qualifier against Turkey, and after the success he had in 2009, he was looking to add more to it in 2009-2010. However, things didn't go as planned with Barcelona. Still, Busquets became the undisputed starter in the pivot role and won the hearts of Barca fans with how he played. But like I said, Barcelona weren't at their best in this season, and they lost to Inter Milan in the semi-finals of the UCL and got eliminated. In the second leg with Inter at Camp Nou, Busquets created a legendary moment. After Thiago Motta hit Busquets in the face, he fell down and Motta was sent off. But just as the cameras panned down on Busquets, he took a glance at what was happening, and when he saw the camera, he quickly covered his face again. Many called this an Oscar-winning performance. Still, despite his best efforts, Busquets couldn't replicate what he did in the previous season, as Barca only won La Liga and Supercopa de España. However, something special was coming in the summer. 2010 was a World Cup year, but certainly unique, as Busquets will never forget it. One thing with Busquets is that fans don't really appreciate him even today, but people who love and understand football love Busquets. And this was the case when Spain's coach lost the first game in the World Cup. After the match he said, "If I were a footballer, I would like to be like Busquets," later adding another infamous quote, "If you watch the game, you don't see Busquets. You watch Busquets, you see the whole game." And so in the World Cup, Busquets played every minute alongside Xabi Alonso in midfield. He was crucial for Spain in the World Cup as they won the competition while writing their names in the history books. On 11th of July 2010, Busquets became world champion, winning the biggest prize in sports after just winning the biggest trophy in Europe with Barcelona. His parents watched proudly with green scarves of Sergio's first ever club, Badia de Valles, around their necks. In just 20 months, Busquets went from playing in the third division to winning the biggest trophy ever. Not bad for a boy who was awkward and too slow to make it to the highest level. However, as successful as Busquets already was, he had to add more trophies to his collection, and the 2010-2011 season was just the perfect occasion for him. In that season, he played center back on a couple of occasions, and even scored an own goal from that position against Arsenal in the Champions League round of 16. Despite this, he had a brilliant season, as Barcelona won La Liga, Supercopa de España and the Champions League, where in the final, Barca showed the world how dominant they really became by destroying the so-called greatest team in the world, Manchester United, 3-1. Also, in the summer of 2012, Busquets won the 2012 Euros with Spain, marking an incredible era of domination from both Barca and the Spanish national team. Sergio was the heart of both, but unfortunately, because he isn't a winger or a flashy player, many people disregarded him and simply didn't notice how good he is. However, the greatest things always have an end, and Guardiola left the club in 2012, with Tito Villanova taking charge of the club. And 2012, 2013 and 2014 were some strange years for Barcelona, as their main players were aging, Villanova had cancer and unfortunately passed away, and the club's management was a disaster. But things were about to take a turn when Barcelona appointed Luis Enrique in 2015. Although many had doubts in him as a manager, he proved everyone wrong by reaching the Champions League final with Barcelona. And guess what? Busquets started in that game. The result? Barcelona won 3-1 against Juventus, with Busquets joining the list of Dani Alves, Messi, Iniesta, Pedro and Gerard Piqué to have won the treble twice. Unfortunately, even though Busquets had a very big role in Barcelona's last 3 Champions League titles, you won't hear much about it. Sergio's humble nature makes him almost invisible for casual fans. Even if you don't see him, he is always there. Not fast, not strong, not flashy, but always 3 steps ahead. No matter the game or the opponent, Busquets is always 3 steps ahead. He knows what to do before the pass is even made. There is a reason why he was starting games for Barcelona since 2009, no matter the coach. And even though Barcelona entered a very dark period in its history after 2015, there was one bulb that always shined: Sergio Busquets. Many clubs wanted him, but he remained there, at the club that gave him everything, to give that same club everything he had. So in November 2018, he made his 500th appearance for Barcelona against Atletico Madrid. In January 2021, he made his 600th appearance, with only Messi, Xavi and Iniesta having more appearances for the club. 2 years later, in January 2023, Busquets made his 700th club appearance for Barca, and in the 2023 Supercopa de España final, he became the player with the most El Clasico wins, with 21 matches, jointly with Paco Gento. And on 2nd of March, he broke that record after beating Real Madrid 1-0 in the first leg of the 2023 Copa del Rey semi-final. On 10th of May 2023, he announced that he will leave Barcelona after 16 years at the club. It was truly a heartbreak for all Barca fans, but it was also a decision that made Sergio's life better. After Messi joined Inter Miami in 2023, he brought his ex-Barcelona teammates with him: Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez, and of course, Sergio Busquets. And I'm so glad that finally, after so many years, people realized how much of a difference Busquets can make. He completely changed the midfield and brought Inter Miami from the worst team in MLS to the first place in the league with 74 points. Now, of course, Busquets wasn't the only one making the difference, but now people realized why he was at the top level for so long. His passes are so perfect that sometimes you think this is normal, when in fact it's not normal at all. He makes the game flow, he escapes pressure every time, and above all, he is smarter than everyone on the pitch. A Rolls Royce of a footballer. If I had to describe Busquets as briefly as possible, I would only say the most underrated player of all time. It is now only a matter of time until he retires, and with this probably being his last season, I want fans to appreciate him more. Hopefully this video will do that. I tried to show you just how crazy good Busquets really is. We will never have a player like him ever again, so let's just acknowledge his greatness and enjoy his last years in football. Write your opinions about this question in the comments, I would really like to know. Is Sergio Busquets the greatest defensive midfielder ever? And if not, then who is? By the way, Dani Alves, a teammate of Busquets, who was considered once the greatest fullback ever, has been sentenced to 4 years in prison. To find out why and how all of this happened, click the video on the screen.